ready to decode BRICS with us today. We're going deep on Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
It's funny how four letters can cause so much buzz, right?
Seriously. It sounds dry, I know, but this isn't just some economics lecture.
Not at all. This is about global power shifts, the kind that impact, well, everything. From the price of gas to, honestly, could democracy even survive this? Big stuff.
No pressure then. So should we start with how BRICS even came to be? Back in 2006, it was just BRIC.
Right. An economist, Jim O'Neill, I think it was, he pointed out these four were on a crash course to becoming economic giants, like a potential counterbalance to the G7, the big existing powers.
The challenger group, basically.
Exactly. Then in 2010, South Africa gets the invite, adds the S, brings in a whole other continent. But did that original vision pan out? Debatable.
Yeah, because economically, they've boomed, right?
Yeah.
But a united front, that's trickier.
It's a mixed bag is what's so interesting. You've got democracies like India, South Africa, alongside, well,
Let's just say systems where voting isn't quite as straightforward.
diplomatically put, not exactly a recipe for always agreeing. And then throw in that whole India-China border clash a while back.
Yeah, not exactly buddy-buddy all the time.
But here's the thing, even with the internal friction, they find common ground when it's about challenging the existing world order. It's like they realize we want a bigger piece of the pie, and that outweighs their differences.
A dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless.
Yeah.
But what are they actually doing to reshape things? It's got to be more than just meetings, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. Think about the World Bank, the IMF, right? Those have always been the institutions if a country needed development funding.
The big lenders, setting the terms.
Exactly. But BRICS is like, why not have our own? Enter the new development bank. They're literally building alternative financial systems.
Whoa, okay, that's a power move. But what difference does having their own bank actually make?
Imagine you're a developing nation, need a loan for a massive project, right? In the past, you had to play by the IMF's rules, which often came with strings attached. Now you've got another option, maybe one more aligned with what you want.
So it's about leverage, having options.
It's a complete game changer, and that's just the start. BRICS is involved in everything now. Climate change, space exploration.
They want a seat at every table.
It's ambitious, for sure.
A little unpredictable, too. Powerful, though, that's for sure. But what's the impact on everyday folks? Why should I care if Brazil's exporting more soybeans or Russia launches another rocket?
Because it's not just soybeans and rockets, it's the kind of world we're headed towards. One shaped by BRICS' vision, whether we understand it or not.
Okay, so let's unpack that vision then. What are they aiming for, and how might it actually impact our lives? I think we need to get specific.
Think of it like this. The world we're used to, good or bad, has been shaped by Western values, Western interests. BRICS is a shift away from that, towards a multipolar world.
Multipolar meaning.
Where the US dollar isn't the only game in town, where global trade flows through multiple hubs, not just the ones we're used to, where international decisions aren't dominated by, well, the usual suspects.
So less predictable.
Exactly. A world where BRICS' influence is everywhere, whether you realize it or not. It's a future full of possibilities, but also some uncertainties, right?
Okay, I have to admit, that's kind of exciting, but also, if I'm being honest, a little intimidating. Change on that scale is rarely smooth sailing. What are the potential downsides? What could go wrong?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are definitely risks. A multipolar world could fracture things, become more fragmented. You could have different blocks all vying for power, for influence.
Competing interests, more points of conflict, potentially?
Exactly. And then there are the ideological clashes. We could see existing conflicts flare up, maybe even new ones erupt that we can't even imagine yet.
Whoa, okay, that took a turn. Those are some serious questions.
Oh.
And I think this is where things get really interesting for our listeners, because if BRICS succeeds in creating this multipolar world they envision, what kind of world will it be? What will it look like for you, your family, your community? What opportunities will it present, and what challenges will it bring?
It's a lot to think about, and it's something we all need to be paying attention to because here's the thing, whether we like it or not, we're living in a time of profound global transformation. The world is changing, power dynamics are shifting, and BRICS is at the forefront of that change.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. We've explored the history of BRICS, their economic might, their ambitions on the world stage, and the potential consequences, both good and bad, of their rise. But this is just the beginning of the journey. So we're talking about a potential power shift on a global scale, BRICS aiming to, like, rewrite the rule book.
Hmm.
But one thing that really caught my eye, one source mentioned Brazil's big push for sugarcane-based ethanol,
Oh, yeah, they're all in on that.
challenging gasoline, like straight up.
It's a great example of how BRICS can disrupt things, whole industries even.
Yeah.
Imagine if sugarcane ethanol takes off, becomes a major player in energy. What happens to oil-producing countries? What about all those car companies betting big on electric? Suddenly the whole game's different.
That ripple effect is huge. So if Brazil can do that with energy, what other industries could they or other BRICS nations shake up? It makes you think.
It's a totally valid question, and that's what I think a lot of folks miss. It's not just what happens within these BRICS countries, it's the global reach they have.
Okay, so we've done the economic side, but BRICS isn't just about money, right? There's this whole climate change angle, too. They're throwing their weight around there as well.
For sure, and this is where it gets super interesting. You'd think, right, a bunch of nations developing super fast, they'd put growth above the environment, right? But BRICS is different.
Yeah, I mean, you've got India, big on solar energy.
Yeah.
China pumping out solar panels and wind turbines like crazy. Not exactly what the history books would predict it.
It's like they're playing a different game, learning from the mistakes, maybe, that the West made at a similar point. They're factoring in sustainability right from the start, whether that's pure environmental concern or just them being smart about where the money's going. That's up for debate.
We don't have to repeat the same mistakes. That's a powerful message.
It is very ambitious. You got to give them that. Though a little ironic, right? Some of these countries are also the biggest polluters.
True. Always that gap between what they say and what they do. But I guess that's BRICS in a nutshell, full of contradictions.
And that's what makes analyzing them so much fun. They don't fit neatly into our little boxes. Challenge assumptions, make you rethink how the whole world works.
All right, so they're shaking things up on economics, on climate.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the geopolitical stuff.
Yeah.
This multipolar world idea, that's where it gets really real.
Totally. BRICS doesn't want to be just another regional power bloc, right? They want a seat at the big table, the global decision-making table. Security, trade, you name it.
And they're not afraid to throw some elbows to get there.
Mhm.
Our sources mentioned that BRICS expansion recently. Argentina, Indonesia, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, all joining the club.
Now that shifts the balance, wouldn't you say? Suddenly, it's not just those original five. You've got South America, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, all kind of signing on to this BRICS vision.
It's a whole power structure being built, like right before our eyes, rivaling the old Western-led order, the one we grew up with. And it's deeper than just geography, isn't it?
100%. A lot of these new members, they're straight up frustrated with how things have been run, see it as biased, pro-West, all that. They see BRICS as a way to push their own values, their priorities.
So a new chapter in global politics is being written as we speak.
And the consequences could be massive. Imagine, instead of the US dollar being king, your international payments, they go through that BRICS bank we talked about, the new development bank. Global trade could look totally different.
That's wild when you put it like that. So much relies on the dollar right now. What happens if that's not the case anymore?
Billion-dollar question right there. Is a multipolar world more stable because power's spread out? Or is it just going to be more competition, more conflict because everyone wants a piece?
No easy answers, that's for sure. But we got to be asking these questions because the choices made today by BRICS, by everyone really, that's our future, right there in the making.
Couldn't agree more. That's why we do this show, Stay informed, have these conversations, actually think about these big changes. Because it's easy to tune it out, but this stuff matters.
Yeah, for sure. So much to unpack there. We've done Brazil's ethanol, the whole multipolar world thing. But before we go any further, I think it's time we bring this back down to earth, make it real for our listeners.
100%. Because these global shifts, ultimately, they impact our everyday lives, right?
Exactly. So let's break it down. What might a world shaped more and more by BRICS, what might that actually look like for you?
Now we're getting to the good stuff.
So we've laid out this huge, complex idea of BRICS reshaping the world.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But what does that actually mean for, say, your morning cup of coffee? How does that change in a BRICS-influenced future?
Okay, so let's say your coffee, right? It's imported from Vietnam, let's say.
Okay.
In a world increasingly influenced by BRICS, that trade route, the financing behind it. It might all go through that new development bank we talked about,
Instead of the traditional routes.
bypassing the whole Western-dominated system. Or even, think about it, your favorite coffee shop.
Yeah.
They're using a mobile payment system, right? But it's not Apple Pay. It's something developed by a tech giant in India, backed by, you guessed it, BRICS funding.
So it's like BRICS' influence, it's almost invisible, but it's everywhere.
Exactly. It's woven into the fabric of our daily lives. You might not even notice it, but it's there.
It's not like, boom, everything's different overnight.
It's a gradual shift.
But it is different. And with that, there are going to be some huge opportunities,
Yeah.
but also some big question marks, right?
Absolutely. For someone starting a business, a multipolar world, that could mean whole new markets opening up, new partnerships to explore. For consumers, think wider variety of goods, maybe even cheaper because of new trade routes.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Right. But on the flip side, more competition, that can lead to instability, maybe even conflict, right? Like we were saying before, if the world is more fragmented.
Harder to work together.
Exactly. Global problems, like that climate change thing we keep coming back to, those need everyone on board. And then there's the values question we haven't even fully unpacked.
Because a multipolar world doesn't automatically equal a better world, does it?
Exactly. It might just mean different people are in charge, but are they using that power any differently? That's what we have to figure out.
It's like, we can shape this, right? It's not a done deal.
100%. And that's why we want to have this conversation. BRICS is real. It's here. It is influencing the world, whether you see it or not.
So to everyone listening, what kind of future do you see coming out of this? What excites you? What scares you? We've given you the information, the starting point. Now it's on you to connect those dots.
Dive deeper, stay informed, and whatever you do, don't stop asking those tough questions. That's how we figure this out together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.